Smoke from wildfires in Canada has blanketed the northeastern United States, including here in Washington. I checked the air quality index this morning, and it's 313, which is considered hazardous. This is rarely seen in the United States and is not healthy, to put it mildly. And I'm sure many of us have seen pictures of the thick smoke in New York City over the last couple of days, which yesterday had the very worst air quality among all the world's major cities. Now, most Easterners aren't used to dealing with this level of smoke. And by Easterners, I mean basically anybody to the east of Colorado. But this is an unfortunate recurring reality for us in the West. This is a picture of downtown Salt Lake City. Now, Salt Lake City doesn't look like this normally. But from time to time, we have these neighbors. I mean, here we've got Canada to deal with. We've got California in Utah, hundreds of miles away, and yet they have fires. And when they have fires, this is what those fires do to us. They blanket us in this thick, oppressive layer of smoke. And it can create dangerous air quality levels, just as this is done in the eastern United States this week. But that's just an August day when wildfires burn in places like California, and then the smoke blows over to us. The Western fires usually don't cause quite the national stir that we've seen in the last few days, even though this is something we deal with some regularity. But they ought to be of concern to all of us, because they do happen, and for us, they happen quite frequently. The reason these fires have become so severe and so frequent in the West is because of unwise forest management practices on land that is owned and controlled by the federal government. The reality is that over the last century or so, we've had this paradox unfold in front of us, in which federal land managers have in some ways gone too far in aggressively suppressing the naturally occurring wildfires, leading to overgrown and unhealthy forests. And in other respects, it's so in that respect, it's overaction. In other areas, it's underaction, failure to undertake aggressive forest management practices that could control for some of this. So we've got these western forests that are dense and dehydrated, yet federal land managers are often prohibited from dealing with the situation in the way in which it requires. Because of restrictive federal land designations and permitting processes for active management activities. Ms. Norris, I'd like to start with you. As a Wyomingite, you're familiar with many of these problems. There seems to be a really stark difference between forest health on federal forest land and other categories of federal land compared to private and state-owned land with trees on it. From your experience in Wyoming, why is this stark difference? Why is it so stark? Why do private and state-owned forests fare so much better in this area?
Thank you, Senator. I believe that has a lot to do with the states and private landowners' flexibility and being able to get things done on the ground quickly. And it appears sometimes our federal partners, through the NEPA process, through certain processes, it takes them much longer to get the work done on the ground. And things don't necessarily always end up in the desired condition maybe they had intended.
And by flexibility, you mean it's not the quality of the personnel, it's the legal restrictions by which they're bound. What they're allowed to do is different than it is on federal land. Is that right?
Correct.
Now, Ms. Hall Rivera, I suspect we can agree that active forest management should be a part of any conversation on permitting reform. What reforms do you think would be helpful to streamline active management activities like mechanical thinning and controlled burns?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. We absolutely agree that active management is a critical part of the conversation. That's what we're focused on in our wildfire crisis strategy. We're taking advantage of every tool that we have in the toolbox right now, every flexibility that we have, including the Secretary recently declaring emergency authorizations for us to use those provisions in bill, and we are using those. We have 6 projects in so far. I have no doubt we'll get more. If there are additional tools that you'd like to give us in the toolbox, we'd be happy to work with you on those.
We'd love to, and my time's running out, but just considering the wildfire crisis in the West and that it is an ongoing, recurring, severe problem, do you think that the current approach to forest management by federal agencies is sustainable?
Well, what we do know is we certainly need a paradigm shift and that we need to significantly scale up that work, both on national forests, but also on state, private, other lands as well.
Although it's on state and private lands, we don't have the same problem. It's not.
No, but we do need to work across boundaries and work in partnership, as we've talked about today. So we know we need to scale up. We appreciate the resources we've been given to start doing that, and we'll need to continue to have resources invested in this problem in the future.
Thank you.